According to Gaza's health ministry, the death toll has risen to over 8,000 Palestinians as internet and communications disruptions continue. Moments of panic at the Al-Quds hospital in Gaza City after Israeli shelling nearby.
Representatives from 66 countries wrap up 2 days of working groups and discussions on a peace plan for Ukraine in the Maltese capital, Valletta.
As the Israel-Hamas war enters its 23rd day, the death toll in Gaza has risen to over 8,000, according to the Gazan health ministry. Israel continued bombing raids on Sunday with reports of disruption to internet and communications in the northern part of the Strip. The Israeli ground invasion shows no sign of slowing down. A prosecutor from the International Criminal Court, Karim Khan, says he will visit Gaza.
I have to say that Israel has clear obligations in relation to its war with Hamas. Not just moral obligations, but legal obligations to comply with the laws of armed conflict.
Meanwhile, along the Lebanese border, there are reports of more clashes between Hamas and Israeli forces. On Sunday evening, Hamas said its forces in Lebanon had fired 16 missiles at the northern Israeli town of Nahariya. The Lebanese militant group Hezbollah also announced it had fired missiles at several sites across the border Sunday afternoon. Hezbollah's Secretary General Sayed Hassan Nasrallah is expected to give his first public speech since the beginning of the war this Friday. Moments of panic at the Al-Quds hospital in Gaza City after Israeli shelling nearby. This video released by the Red Crescent reflects the fear of hundreds of civilians after seeing several windows explode and dust and smoke invade the space where they were. Israel claims that Hamas is hiding part of its infrastructure there and called for the immediate evacuation of the center. Impossible, the Red Crescent responds.
We don't have the means to evacuate Al-Quds hospital. We have over 400 patients who are inside the hospital. Many of them are in the intensive care unit. Evacuating them means killing them. We have inside our hospital over 14,000 civilians who are internally displaced due to continuous bombardment.
Israel insists that Hamas uses hospitals to launch attacks and camouflage its infrastructure. The international community warns that immediate evacuation is impossible and that Israel must do everything possible to avoid civilian casualties.
This is Canaan, a Berlin restaurant led by Israeli and Palestinian owners. They say their mission to promote unity and peace has become stronger since the Israel-Hamas war. Owner Oz Ben David said the shock of Hamas's attack led him to shut down the restaurant for a few days. But he reopened it when he saw some Israeli businesses temporarily close over fears of anti-Semitic attacks.
Building those bridges in between each other, looking for the common thing that we share with each other. If those places are getting closed down, we need to, then the terror will be winning, and we need to show and be something different.
Oz said he and co-owner Jalil Dabit started the restaurant to defy beliefs that it wouldn't be possible for people with their identities to work together. The restaurant expanded and employs people reflecting Berlin's diversity, Syrians, Egyptians, and members of the LGBT community.
Oz and Jalil have garnered international attention for their restaurant. Jalil says it was their similar values that led to their partnership, and their work experience here has allowed them to overcome adversity and continue working together despite their different backgrounds.
Even though we were in the middle of war, I cannot hate my partner because we are working together for 9 years and we are doing stuff together, amazing things. So when people working together, it's make them closer.
Oz and Jalil initially wanted the restaurant to be an example of cooperation for fellow Israelis and Palestinians, but they realized its significance went well beyond that.
We noticed how much this place were important to local Germans, Europeans that are living here in Berlin, that were looking for a place where the pain of both of the sides is veiled.
Anti-Semitic violence broke out at the international airport of Makashkala in Dagestan last night. Dozens of people invaded the runways when a plane from Israel landed. The police intervened and dozens were injured, various of them seriously, and more than 60 were detained. Russia accuses Ukraine of being behind what happened. The Dagestani Prime Minister condemned the use of social networks.
Социальные сети сейчас являются, будем говорить, таким рупором, они призывают всех туда, куда надо и не надо. И мы не должны допускать, чтобы те призывы, которые сейчас находятся в социальных сетях, их поддерживала наша молодежь, поддерживала население нашей республики.
The head of Dagestan, Sergei Milikov, visited the airport this morning. The Israeli bombardment of Gaza has inflamed tempers in this Muslim-majority Russian republic. The United States and Israel have condemned the anti-Semitic attack.
The table is set, but the guests will not be attending. In Geneva, 230 empty seats represent the number of hostages taken by Hamas since the 7th of October attack on Israel. But protesters will need to bring more chairs, as officials confirmed on Sunday that the number of captives has risen to 239.
Aujourd'hui, on est devant les Nations Unies, à qui on demande sans aucun délai de dire publiquement et au monde entier de les relâcher immédiatement, de relâcher nos 230 otages. Ce sont les otages du monde entier aujourd'hui, pas que d'Israël.
Israel also said 40 more people are still unaccounted for and denied claims that Hamas is ready to exchange prisoners. In Athens, dozens of Israelis living in Greece and pro-Israeli demonstrators held a protest on Sunday, carrying placards with photos of Israelis abducted by the militant group. At the same time, 15,000 pro-Palestinian demonstrators marched towards the Israeli embassy in the Greek capital. Other large-scale demonstrations against Israel's actions in Gaza were held in several European cities, including Madrid, Lisbon and The Hague.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has started a 4-day visit to the Western Balkans. It started in Skopje, where she met with President Stevo Penderovsky. North Macedonia, Kosovo, Montenegro, Serbia and Bosnia and Herzegovina are at different stages of integration into the European Union. Von der Leyen is meeting with the country's leaders to discuss a new growth plan that potentially opens parts of the bloc's single market to them. Bringing the Balkans into the fold has been a priority for the 27 member states since Russia's invasion of Ukraine last year.
Ukraine fighting for its sovereignty and territorial integrity and for our values. So let's work.
The EU plans to set aside €6 billion for investments and reforms in the 6 countries, including €4 billion in loans and €2 billion in subsidies. Access to the money is conditional. They have to reform their economies and political institutions, which includes tackling corruption and stamping out organised crime. Brussels has been trying to resolve a long-running dispute between candidates Kosovo and Serbia, whose relations have deteriorated since their war more than 20 years ago.
Devising a peace plan for Ukraine at an international summit in Valletta, Malta. Representatives from 66 countries put their heads together over the weekend and discussed 5 points within the Ukrainian peace formula, including food security, nuclear safety and a plan on how to rescue abducted Ukrainian children, civilian hostages and prisoners of war. Moving thousands of kilometres north to the front line in Avdiivka in the Donetsk region, defending troops say they are continuing to repel Russian attacks. This, as analysts warn, the war-ravaged city could become a, quote, second Bakhmut, the site of the bloodiest and longest battle in Moscow's full-scale war so far. Meanwhile, Russia's defence ministry has released footage of what it says is a drone attack on a Ukrainian self-propelled artillery system, disguised beneath the trees in an unspecified location. It also claims the crews of these tanks, manned by, quote, Western troops, accidentally struck Ukrainian positions in the Kupiansk direction. Turkey's 5-point starring crescent, lighting up the night sky over the Bosphorus Strait in Istanbul. Tens of thousands of revellers gathered in the Turkish port city on Sunday to mark 100 years of independence. Spectators were treated to a fireworks display, a huge concert, military parades and a drone ballad, commemorating the foundation of the state on the 29th of October 1923 by then President Mustafa Kemal Ataturk. Despite the fanfare, some festivities were called off against the backdrop of the Israel-Hamas war.
Today, Russia marks the Day of Remembrance of Victims of Political Repressions. Russian citizens commemorated the victims of Stalinist terror on Sunday, more than 20 months into Moscow's Ukraine offensive that has been accompanied at home by a major crackdown on dissent.
И очень важно, потому что на этих акциях последние годы люди говорили не только о прошлом. Они читали имена сталинских узников и очень часто говорили о нынешних политзаключенных. И это тоже для власти неприемлемо.
Государство в целом не делает практически ничего. И мы видим, как сегодня московские власти относятся к этой вот поминальной церемонии. Как будто здесь планируют собраться террористы.
On Sunday, the returning of the name ceremony, in which names of victims of political terror were read aloud, attracted close police attention and dozens of participants, including foreign diplomats and members of NGOs.